Hey everybody, here we are to talk about when to use what. Webinars versus town halls in Microsoft Teams. One of the things you may be aware of, you may not be aware of, is that within Microsoft Teams we have these two different types of events that we can actually schedule. And bear with me while I check that we are live here, and then I'm sharing what I expect to. Looks good, looks good. Double check we're live. The event will start soon. Well, it says it's already started. So what's up with that? Let's double check it's actually running. It looks like it is now. Just waiting for the internet to catch up. There we go. Okay. So the first thing that we can look at is how to schedule a webinar versus a town hall. It's over here in the upper right-hand corner of Microsoft Teams, Webinar, Town Hall. Let's start with webinar. A webinar typically uses a registration. By default, a webinar is public, not within your organization. And by default, I can share or enable attendee emails, control the attendee experience with some defaults. I can go into meeting options. But unlike a regular Teams meeting where you just schedule it and then you're on to your other business unless you made adjustments, this is a multi-step process. The first thing I have to do is save the webinar. And then once I save the webinar, this schedules it. This allows me to add in the other items that are on the leftmost side. So now that I've saved it, I can either try the new experience for a more powerful event. We can see some of the new features. I can go into presenter bios. This is where I could add a presenter bio and provide information about my presenters, add external presenters. I can add theming, so I could put different images and theme colors together here. So if I choose another image, and I choose something that I'm super fond of, which is the IT crowd, I could make my webinar about the IT crowd. And then under registration, this is where I decide what my event capacity is, whether I require manual approval, waitlist, registration dates, and then attendee status once I publish the site. And then I get emails, reports, recordings happen automatically. It's only available after the event is published. Then I can also connect apps. I believe I can do this now, integrating it with different CRM, customer relationship management systems. Now that I publish the site, we have a webinar that I could sign up for. I'll get a link, and I get a share link to make sure people can find it, and I can actually put it out on the Discover page for events. Now if I go to a browser here, maybe a different tab, let's open a new window. This is where I would send everybody to either join my event or register for my event. Okay, so that's a webinar. And let's join the event, and let's take a look at the new meeting experience in a webinar. I had this epiphany, hey, if they're changing the functionality for Microsoft Teams, I wonder what they're doing for Microsoft when you use webinars. So if I were using a webinar format, this is what it would look like. Not only do I get into the meeting, I have the ability to set up with other presenters and external folks, but I can start the meeting, which allows my attendees in. And then I can again control the experience through some of the join info and the settings for the meeting. So I might have to go back out to get to the settings. But controls are also available. This is where I can change some of the options. Here's those settings. So the recording happens automatically with transcription. I can decide I want multilingual speech recognition. I've got other choices here. So once I'm done with the meeting, I can end the meeting. But if I start the meeting, it starts recording, starts transcription. We invite people in. We have this meeting, and that is a webinar. If I share my screen in Teams, we have the old sharing experience. Microsoft's been testing a new sharing experience, but looks like we're going to get the old sharing experience. We're going to close our webinar with registration, and we're now going to open up and create a town hall and compare this to a webinar. Now a town hall looks very similar. Differences between webinars and town halls. And one major difference, besides presenters with your org and co-organizers, is by default a town hall is internal to your organization, not public. So I'm sharing in Microsoft Teams. I've got the share tray at the top. The share tray hasn't really changed, but the new meeting experience has for certain. If I stop sharing there and leave my or end my event, my webinar, we'll now focus on setting up and creating a town hall. So we can do the same kinds of things we did, enable attendee emails, decide our event capacity. We can set it lower than 20,000, in meeting only chat, Q&A, raise hands, attendance reports. I could do polls, enable those features, go to meeting options. And then when I save this at the top left, that's where I get the theming and the other options for this type of meeting. So besides the details, it should come up here shortly. Looks like I'm waiting on the network to do its thing. There we go. Now we can go to theming, just change our image, choose our image of the IT crowd again, get the desks there kind of front and center, change my theme color, my logo, control what happens with emails, what happens with reports once I publish. I believe we'll see that similar message, and then insights and recordings. And recordings for town halls and webinars happen automatically, so you don't have to remember or have somebody that's attending and producing remember that you want those recordings. So now I publish a town hall. Similar setups, the event page has a link, the join link has a link, and I can use the new apps or sorry, the events app if I choose to. Now, one thing I noticed with town halls and webinars that I thought was worth pointing out to all of you was that these both pick up on my new meeting experience with everything centered in the top. So if you have the new meeting experience, which is in public preview now, it's rolling out, so you may have it immediately and you may have to wait around for it a little bit. But this is where I can decide as a town hall that I want to have one of my presenters brought up as a essentially on-screen participant versus folks that are in the meeting but aren't displayed in the screen. And then I can customize my screen with different layouts. Then name tags for attendee or for presenters, and then different backgrounds for that meeting. So I'd have to bring in some other people and then put them on the screen to see how that would look. Then once I get everything set up, so I've got my video, I've got my plan for the event, I can start the event. This lets my folks in. This is a town hall. Maybe it's a special announcement. McDonald's has made some pretty significant external announcements this week. And so maybe this is related to those announcements. Maybe this is coming on the heels of something that is public, like Q2 earnings or changes within an organization. So that's the difference between town halls and webinars at a very high level. Webinars, again, are public by default. Town halls are internal by default. Either can be switched to the other. So if I have an internal, maybe workshop or something that I'm trying to schedule and I'm trying to get a feel for how many people want to attend, maybe it's virtual and in person, and I'm trying to figure out the demand on how many people would like to attend. I can set up a webinar with registration, and then within the registration, I can collect information and have a sense for how many people want to attend my event. Microsoft uses this for a lot of external events, and the new events experience I haven't played around with just yet, so I'll do that later this week, and I'll see how this affects both webinars and town halls. But town halls have a little different feel, but both webinars and town halls pick up that new meeting experience. So again, we mentioned that recording happens automatically. It started recording. I could stop recording. Maybe we have a portion of the town hall that isn't recorded, like Q&A or a Ask Me Anything. We don't want that recorded. It's only available to those that attended in person. I've got my join info and I've got my meeting settings info for town hall. And then when the town hall is done, we just end the event for all attendees, and then I can either leave the event going, or I can end the meeting in this case. So with that, folks, we have looked at town halls, we've looked at webinars, and we've looked at the new meeting experience within Microsoft Teams. Public preview right now, and I hope you've enjoyed this short and sweet demo of some of the things coming to a Microsoft Teams environment near you. Yes, Brandon, definitely Teams. This was a Teams-focused session on both webinars and town halls in Microsoft Teams. I'm waiting around for a live event that I have coming up in about an hour. So this seemed like a good way to take a little break from having to monitor an event in showing how I would set up or create that event in the first place. So thanks everybody for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect here and call it a day. Let's see, I think I've got a thank you. There we go.